Hello, creatives. Welcome to a Kid Called Beastmaker session. In this session, we have Juan, and today we're diving into 3D scenes using AI. Here's an example of what we are making today. Let's get started.
Super easy. You pretty much just gotta either type the ones that you want, the basic prompts, and then next we're gonna be also utilizing the snow add-on, which is very simple to do and get. All you have to do is just get it from the Blender website. There's a Blender website now that they're specifically made like extensions, so like snow or anything that is pretty much made by Blender. They have a particular website now, so we're gonna switch to that real quick. Cool. So this is the website where you get the extension. It's gonna be inside of the community forums that you guys can get it from and download it. So it's really easy to do. You just put get add-on and then you open up your Blender file, you go into your preferences, and then you just go to your install disk. Depending the Blender version, you can install it right away from the extension tab, or if you're on 4.23 like I am, you can just install it from the disk right away like so. But I already have it installed. As you guys can see, it is here in my extensions. If I look up snow, here it is. I haven't installed, so I'm gonna install it here. Cool. So once that's done, you just want to pretty much start off with your assets that you want to first generate. So we're gonna go into Luma. These are some of the assets that I generated. So what's super cool about this is that not only do you get like this basic one, but you also get like a category of different creations that you made. So for this, I made a Christmas cane, and it generated a couple of cool different styles that you guys can see here. Some of them are not going to come out the best, some of them will. And of course, you know, if you put a certain more details, you'll get better results as always. So this is the one that I went with, which was just a basic one. And then I also wanted to add a little bit more items into my scene. So I looked up this asset here, which was, you know, something really cool that I could implement in my scene. And I wanted something already like very like simple, which was just, you know, this little bow and the green around it, and you know, something basic. So I chose this one for this. And then I went in with my sledge. After that, I got a reindeer. And then I also got a Christmas box. So you guys can see here, the prompt that I use is single Christmas gifts with bow. And you'll get a variation of results from this. As you guys can see, I got 4 and I ended up going with the green one. But the results vary, so just mess around with it. Same for the tree, detailed Christmas tree. I went with this. It doesn't look the best, but again, these are things that in Blender you're gonna be kind of having in the background or just around your scene. So a lot of the times the details don't really matter, especially, you know, if you're gonna be using like depth of field or a little bit, you know, of, you know, mist or fog. These things are very cool to utilize because you can implement them just, you know, seamlessly. So now we're gonna go into Blender. So first thing is I imported a object, a mesh, and I imported a cone. And my cone, what I did to this, I just turned it into my rotation, my X rotation. I turned it to 180, so it can be like this. And this is just optional, but you can pretty much just like go into the edit tab. You can delete the bottom if you want. And then like you can kind of mess around with like the edges. So here in the edit tab, you have 3 options. You have vertex, you also have edge mode, and you also have the face mode. So you can select the face. So for example, if I select face, it's going to select this face. If I select the edge, it's going to select only the edges that are in the sides, you guys can see. And if I do vertex, it's going to select all the little dots that are here. So for this, I simply just selected G, and I did like a bunch of little details. I just went in, pretty much making something that ended up looking out like this, you guys can see. And then what I did is I imported my objects. So you can kind of start off by importing a basic object. These objects, you can find them in the forum, community forum. They're going to be right there. And let's say, for example, like the cane, we're going to import the cane. If you have your asset, you can always use your cursor. The cursor is really good to use where you want it to be. So let's say I want it to be here. I'm going to select it. Make sure that your object is selected as well. You can press Shift S and select the cursor, and it will move it to that location. So that's just like a whole little trick that you can use it just to make sure that you kind of move around your scene faster. And shortcuts are amazing. I feel like a lot of people forget about using them, and they're just super beneficial, especially if you do your homework on some of like the shortcuts that can benefit you in your projects or just your workflow. So once you have your scene, or your object in there, you can move it around, place it in different areas. Then you can import your camera. Let's say you want a camera in there. Now you have your camera. Just to get a better perspective, we're gonna kind of open up a different window here. This is where we're gonna be seeing our scene, and this is where we're gonna be working on our scene. So we're just gonna change the material type so we can see the actual textures on this scene. And now what we can do is, again, we can adjust this here. We'll do Alt D. If you do Shift D, it's gonna make your scene a bit heavier because you're kind of duplicating the data. And when you do Alt D, you're pretty much just making like a basic like replica of it. So the data is the same as this one, not a different one. So make sure that you do that. Alt D just to copy it, and then you can do a bunch of different adjustments. As I said, you can go into the rotation, you can adjust the rotation, you can do a bunch of cool different things. Make sure that you could just build up your scene and utilize all your assets that you downloaded. And then once you have that done, your scene should look something like this with your AI. So this is how the AI scene looks. This is basic. We're gonna go into cycles just so you guys can see. So it's very basic, nothing crazy. It's just kind of how we built it. Our camera movement that we added is just very basic. Very simple, very simple. So as you guys can see, I just pretty much copied a bunch of trees. I copied the boxes. I copied just a bunch of cool different things just to make it like more realistic and add some depth to it. And just stack them up, add them in the background, make some smaller ones, rotate some if you want. You can even like put some under the ground just to make it look even more cool. As you guys can see, like this, I kind of just put it a little bit under. Can go even more low just to adjust the actual perspective that you want it to be, but I kept it there. And then what I ended up doing was I also threw in the Kid Called Beast toy that is dropping very soon. So make sure you guys, if you guys haven't picked some up or pick one up, shout out Raspy, I see you down there. Cool. So once we imported our assets, we're gonna import the snow. So what's cool about the snow is that pretty much like you can have a basic mesh. So for example, for this, we're gonna use the monkey just for an example. And we're also gonna be closing up this tab here just so we can have a bigger scene. We're gonna move this cursor here. So you first have to select your object, and then we're gonna go into the snow tab. So make sure you look for the snow add-on. Here I'm selecting the snow add-on right here on the top right. You can see it. So you have like a bunch of two options that you can select. You can select the coverage. Usually I keep mine between 90, 80 or so. The height, I keep it as how it is, 44, but you can do less if you want. And then you just add your snow. And here, as you can see, it added some snow. We're also gonna just adjust the lighting here just to get a better idea of how it looks. I'm gonna change this. Just add a sky texture. And we'll just change this color to black so we can see it better. Cool. So as you guys can see, here's our snow. And again, if I change like the values here, select our object again, it'll be less snow. So you want to do that pretty much with all of your AI scene that you all the objects that you got. So I'm gonna be going back into that real quick. Oh, here. So we're gonna go to our cone. pretty much our plane. We're gonna import our AI scenes that we did. Again, we adjusted it to exactly how we wanted. Again, for this, even like the reindeer, I added an armature just so that it can have like some movement. And that's something that, you know, I just went out of the way to do. It took me, you know, maybe like 2 minutes to just rig, and I like that basic movement, and it brings the whole scene a little bit to life. If it was just to be, you know, stuck how it is, I don't think, you know, it would be like the best like storytelling vibe. So as you guys can see, there it is with no movement. But once we add it, you know, it gives it a little bit more feeling to it, and it's really cool. So I suggest to add an armature to some of the things just to, you know, make it look cool. You could even make these wiggly if you wanted to. But yeah, so then the snow, that's how it looks with the snow once I implemented it into each one, because I kind of went into each like thing here and I added snow to this, which was the circle thing that we got. And then we also pretty much went in and we put it in onto the beast toy box and into the plane that we got, and then I kind of put it randomly onto some of the canes, as you guys can see. So once we have that, you pretty much can import, I'm gonna open up a new one because it's already kind of messed up, change the sky. So we're gonna open up the same things that we had here. We're gonna have our cam. Cool. So this is the scene, and then extras, these were just kind of like little stuff like the clouds. These are planes. You can look up PNG planes, you can look up clouds, you can look up fog. And in this, what I just did is I added some emission to it just so that, you know, the clouds can be a little bit more vibrant and kind of more visible. So if I'm here on my camera, you guys can see that, you know, the camera's angle. You can actually see like that the clouds were looking pretty cool. So I just brought it up a bit and kept it like at that. I kept it at 0.040. You guys can see it looks super dope, super cool. I currently have my notes turned off, so that's why there's no mist, because I ended up adding like a little bit of mist here. So let me just turn that on. I have this awesome add-on called Simplify Plus. It's super dope. Pretty much can utilize it for your scenes. It detects any heavy things from your scene, and once you know, select those things, you can turn them on, turn them back off, and, you know, kind of adjust your actual scene accordingly. So once that's ready, we're gonna just let it load up real quick. Cool. So once that's been done, as you guys can see here, this is our scene. I'm gonna move this a bit down. Perfect. So now what I did is I pretty much just went crazy with my lighting. I imported a bunch of different lighting. I added some blue lights, some white lights. You guys can see it here. Behind the trees, pretty much added some yellow lights. Made sure that, you know, made like kind of like the box look like it's something really amazing to look at and open, because, you know, obviously we want to open that these boxes really soon. So yeah, that was the vibe for it. And this is how it looks with the lights. So didn't go crazy with the lighting. You guys can, you know, be very minimal. And obviously if you want to add like a bunch of stickers and things, it's very easy to do too. This, you know, all I did was I just added like a shrink wrap and a bunch of cool different things. We're gonna turn all these on. So what I did is I added a shrink wrap just so this can be stuck right there. And then this is a PNG. I went onto a website where you can kind of generate like Christmas font theme style stuff. So I just made something basic for this, same as for the this right here. And then obviously I imported my beast. So here I have Raspy sitting down because he's Santa, and I imported Mimi and Mimi's husband here, Ed. And then of course, here we are looking at the toy box. So yeah, and it was really easy to do, guys. I'm going to be showing you also how I did my mist pass. So for this is very simple. First, you want to go onto your settings here, onto your view layer. You're going to want to turn on this, which is going to be the mist. Once your mist is turned on, you want to make sure that you go to your camera. So we're going to select our camera. Once your camera has been selected, you want to make sure that you go to the viewport display. You select mist. Make sure that's on. Then once that has been selected, you're going to want to go to the world object. And here you can adjust the start. So you guys can see that little dot here. That's pretty much like where you want it to begin from your camera. And then the depth is going to end up being how far you want it to be kind of, looking into. So for this, I kind of wanted like a little dense fog in my scene where it kind of looked very foggy and gloomy, kind of like a cold winter night. So I went with 7.4 just so it can be around this area. And then once you have that, you simply just have to render a basic image. But before you even do that, you have to do a nodes pass. So for this, what I did is just making sure that on your stuff that you have provided with the mist, you want to make sure that the add-on, or that you want to make sure that your visible passes here has been selected, because you won't have this turned on. So let's say if I turn it off here, as you guys can see, it won't be turned on. So it's very important just to even have this in the scene. So once the mist has been selected, you want to import a color ramp. By this, all you have to do is Shift A and just do color ramp. Make sure you put that, connect the color ramp to the mist, and then the color ramp image will be connected to a mix. So make sure you just also do Shift Mix Color, and again it's going to be like so. I'm going to show you guys real quick how it looks. And cool. So now we're gonna render a little quick image of this, just to have an idea of how the mist is gonna look. We're gonna change this to 50. Cool, just to get a quick image rendered. Awesome. Get some water. Cool. So here you guys can see that the mist is imported into the scene, and let's say right away when you import it, it's not going to be having a color, so it's just going to be white like this. Same as this is going to be way more white like so. It's going to be looking like this. So here is the fun part where you have like full control, and this is just optional when you can adjust yours. So what I do is I always just lower this a bit, just so that my character and my kind of my scene here is more visible. You can go even more, but I just keep it here so that my background can still have like that fogginess look in the background. And then for this, what I select is I go for like a darker tone, just to have it a little bit more minimal in the details, and I can see kind of the clouds a bit better. And then what's cool about this, when you add the mix, we have full control of the color. So you can go crazy. You can do red, you can do blue, you can do this, you can do pink, you can do green. And you have full control of making that mist, the fog, however you want to call it. I would say it's more like a mist, just because it's actually called a mist, but it looks like a fog. This can replicate a fog look. And yeah, that's pretty much what I did for my mist pass, so that you can have that mist look. And then we ended up rendering it. What I ended up doing is I ended up using my render farm. I use Octorender, which is super convenient. So the way that I utilize this is I currently use only 4.1, just because 4.23 I've been having issues with a certain add-on. But what I do is I select the name of my project file, and then what I do is select the name. I do my render format is PNG, your render type, you can select it as images or as an animation. So this is going to be an animation, an actual little sequence video. So we're going to do animation. And if you want, you can always start off at a certain frame, or you can just have it automatically detect how many frames are in your scene. For this one, I had 250. My batch size for this was only 1. Next, what you want to do is very important. You want to make sure that you turn on the transfer. So once that has been activated, you want to make sure that you're also selecting the correct Blender version that you want to utilize with this project. So for example, if I was to utilize this on 4.1, I'm going to use 4.1. If I was to use 4.2, I'm going to use obviously 4.2. And then for the content manager, here you can select the add-ons that you want to import with. So for example, if you have certain add-ons that don't work on certain render farms, thankfully Octarender made it so that you can just select what add-ons you want to import them with, and you don't have to bake, you don't have to do nothing crazy like that. All you have to do is just select it, and it will detect that information and import it into Octarender for your render file. So then once you're there, you go into your render file. I'm gonna go into my Octarender profile, as you guys can see. We're gonna go in here. Once my job has been submitted, it's going to import your file. You're going to have your file running. And then one thing that is important is you have to rent your nodes. So here, what I did for this project, I rented out, I think it was 490s. So currently there's only 2 490s available. So they're very more cheaper. Some of them go for like literally like $0.01 or $2. There's a few here that are available. So what I ended up doing, I imported it and I got my scene rendered. So here it was. I was playing some Fortnite while it was rendering. You can see it in different versions here. So this pretty much is the heat tab. This kind of tells you how much each frame is taking. So some of these frames took 115 seconds to render. Some of them took 87 seconds, and some of them, you know, have different time slots that they rendered in. So then here, what I'm gonna do is just show you how it looks. So it's super cool that you can, you know, utilize this for, you know, your workflow. Let's say you have a client or you have a project that you want to just push out tomorrow in the morning. You make your scene, you build it, do everything what it is, submit it. You also rent your nodes, and bam, you get your project rendered. And you can also view this in 24 FPS, 15 FPS, 30 FPS, and 60 FPS. And this is rendered as a animation sequence. So what I did is just select here. You want to select the folder that you want to save it in. Once your folder has been downloaded, you want to open that up. I'm going to show you guys real quick my folder that is saved in. So here's my folder that is saved in. It made a whole PNG sequence. So a PNG sequence, what you have to do is import it into Blender so that you can make a timeline. So here I ended up just making sure that it was saved. I made sure that that was perfectly saved. Then what I do is I go into the video editing. I select the video editing here. I make sure I start back on the first frame. I select add. I click image. Go to the folder that your files were in. Mine are in here. The way that you do it to select all is just select the top here. Select like name. I click the top here and it just, you know, puts the number 1 in the top. And then I just make sure that I click number 1, hold shift, selects everything. Now my strip has been fully added onto my timeline where I can export it as a full video now. So for this, you can adjust your settings. We'll do 200 because that's what we rendered it, the quality in. Do the frame rate, you can change that. And it's also important to make sure that you have an output folder for this, because if not, it will go to the TMP and then the temp file. It's really hard to, you know, make sure that you find that and transfer your file to the download tab and all that. So make sure that this is turned on. FMPEG, you want to make sure that you go to the settings, do FMPEG video. Color management, that's gonna be an optional. The encoding, we're gonna do MPEG-4. And then for the video codec, we do H.264. The quality, I do usually lossless or perceptionally lossless. And usually what I have this app called Topaz, AI, and it's pretty expensive, but I utilize it so I can compress my videos, and also make them really high quality, and it's really cool. So I do that once I download this video, and yes, you will change your settings, your video output quality and all that, and then you hit render. You render your animation. We're gonna render the animation here, and as you can see, it's beginning to download. Once that has been downloaded, you're gonna have your actual folder with it, and this is the actual final product once it's done from the Topaz. Here it is. And then bam, you're done. Now from this, you can utilize some sound designs. Raspberry has currently provided some sound designs on SoundCloud where you can use them for your Christmas themed projects. There's going to be, I think, a Blender contest coming up soon. So make sure you guys get creative. If you guys have any questions, definitely let me know. I'm always down to help, and I'm excited to see what you guys create with this. I'm super hyped that I got in touch with this and let you guys know some cool little sauce about how I get my stuff done, and making sure that you guys kind of understand the whole pipeline of how I kind of execute my renders. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know.
This was insane.
Thank you, Mimi. Thank you.
Really quick, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. I know Panda said, do you have to send it as images, or can they set it up with video code?
I think you can send it as PNGs. You can also do EXR files and JPEGs. I think that's the options that I have here. We can check real quick. So you have PNGs, JPEG, OpenEXR, and then you obviously, if you're gonna be rendering just an image, you can select that as an image. But since this is an animation, an image sequence is always gonna be better, just because you're not gonna have okay, so the way that I've kind of found this out, I was messaging a guy that is into Blender and he knows about the codecs and stuff. So sometimes when you render in FMPEG directly from Blender, you're gonna have some certain processing that is gonna happen due to the graphics card and the optics that has been rendering the image. And what happens sometimes is that image is gonna have a corrupt some little artifact with it. Maybe the motion blur is gonna look kind of weird, or is gonna have a little bug to your scene. So he recommended me that a PNG sequence is always better, just because each image is dedicating just that certain rendering data to that certain PNG photo. So PNGs are just kind of the more universal pipeline that people use. And it's also better because if you do PNGs, the way that most people, that pros do it, they use OpenEXRs, and they render in layers. So what that means is they pretty much render the floor, they render the clouds, they render the mountains, they render the grass and all these things. And the reason they do that is just so that their computers that they have won't have to overuse a lot of the CPU, RAM, and all these things, just because they're heavy scenes. So the best way that they do that is utilizing OpenEXR. And the mist passes and all these things, they're also more adjustable, because if you have a editor in DaVinci Resolve or in other professional editing programs, they have full control of adjusting the color correction, the color design, and everything of the image. So yeah, OpenEXR is just more professional, but I just select always PNG just because it's the most universal for me.
And that's a wrap. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content. See you in our next maker session.